It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
I got an email the other day with this headline in the I guess in the subject line: South Africa's socialism began like current American socialism. Could it happen here? As I want to welcome to the program, we have a gentleman by the name and author, Ernst Roets, is on the program. Ernst, welcome, sir. How are you?
Thank you very much. It's good to be on the show. I'm very well. I'm speaking to you from Washington. I'm currently in the U.S., although I am from South Africa.
Ah, okay. So you're in D.C. right now. Okay, well, good. Well, I was wondering, what the time difference would be if you were. I think over in South Africa. If you were in South Africa, it'd be about 2 o'clock there right now. So your book is called "Kill the Boer." Am I pronouncing that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so I don't know a lot about South African history, Ernst, but maybe you could kind of clue us in. The full title of your book, "Kill the Boer: Government Complicity in South Africa's Brutal Farm Murders." Now, the president actually tweeted about this, and the mainstream media here made fun of him and said he was saying something that wasn't true. What do you say?
Well, there's no doubt that there's a very serious problem in South Africa, and that's the reason why we're here. I'm from a civil rights organization called AfriForum. We're the largest civil rights group in Africa, and we are in DC at the moment to speak to as many people as we can about the crisis in South Africa and also why it affects the U.S. So there are two major issues here. The one is the violence that we see on South Africa's farms, the continued violence, where it's very politically incorrect to talk about this, but the reality is we've had about 2,000 people murdered on farms in South Africa.
10,000?
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's the most horrific methods of torture imaginable. We've had cases of people being tortured 5 hours long, tortured to death eventually. But you can't really talk about this because, I don't know, I think it seems like the victims don't fit the right profile or something. And then on top of that, we have this issue, and that's where the socialism comes in, with the South African government saying that, well, having taken an official position, and a motion was adopted in the South African Parliament that the South African government has to change the constitution to empower the state to expropriate or basically confiscate people's private property without paying them, without compensation. And this is something that's going on now. But the reason why this is important to the U.S. is because there's a whole bunch of other countries that are involved in some way, including or that play a role in this, including Venezuela and Zimbabwe, but more importantly, including China.
Okay, so tell us about that. You mentioned those other countries. What do they have to do with it?
Yes. So it's part of, well, let me start here. So in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and and that was the end of the Cold War, and it was broadly accepted that socialism and communism has been destroyed and completely discredited, and one author in the U.S. even called it the end of history, meaning that the whole world's going to become liberal and democratic now. And it turns out that's not the case, that there are many countries, and that there are more countries recently who are moving away from democracy, and also that socialism is on the increase in terms of the popularity thereof. And state countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe and Venezuela, who believe that the solution is just to give as much power to the state as they can, and then the state will decide on behalf of the people. And now what's happening in countries like in South Africa, and that we saw the same thing in Zimbabwe, is as the economy crashes or goes down the drain, we find that China then moves in to pick up the bill. So the bigger global political consequence here is that the influence of China is moving across, is increasing, is strengthening across the globe, and I think this is, well, we've noticed that this is something that the U.S. should also take note of.
That's very interesting that you mentioned China. We talk a lot about China on the program. So that's already happened with Zimbabwe. I mean, China is, I mean, they from what I have read, They have claim to mineral rights in Zimbabwe. Do you think that's going to happen, or is it in the process of happening with South Africa?
Yes, it's in the process of happening. So there's a massive Chinese, there's not one, there's a few massive Chinese investment projects in South Africa where they're involved with the building of mining facilities and factories and a bunch of stuff. And of course, the South African government is applauding this because what they say is, no, this will lead to job creation in South Africa. But what they don't seem to recognize is that when China moves in, they don't employ the local people, they send their own people to. So we have this influx of Chinese investment and projects in South Africa. And so it is already happening. And we saw it with Zimbabwe, especially after the economy completely collapsed. South Africa is not, economically speaking, and in the same position as Zimbabwe was, although the risk is there that might happen. But we can already see that there's a very strong relationship between the South African government and the Chinese government.
I'm sure you're aware of this. We're talking with Ernst Roets. He's the author of a book called Kill the Boer. He's also the CEO of the AfriForum, which is a civil rights organization. Ernst, you know, I'm in the state of Arkansas, and we're broadcasting online and across and radio stations across the state of Arkansas. Would you believe that before President Trump was elected, Arkansas had inked some of these preliminary deals with the Chinese? We were going to give them our taxpayer dollars with the hope that they would move here and build Chinese factories that would essentially they would make money and send the profits back home to communist China. And as soon as Trump got elected and he started, you know, with the tariffs and the trade wars, all those deals kind of got put on hold. But, you know, just like what you're describing with South Africa and the Chinese influence, I mean, we have states here that are trying, you know, they're governors of states trying to make deals. And, I mean, it's very worrisome to me, given the fact that, you know, what's happening in Zimbabwe, South Africa, what's happening in the South China Sea, you know, this idea that somehow the Chinese communist doesn't really mean what communism used to mean, I think is not true. And I think, I don't know why anybody would want to do business with the Chinese in the manner, you know, like they're somehow benign or something. What do you say to that?
Yes, the strange thing, I think part of the answer to that question is what we see in South Africa is that the South African government, or the ruling party, is very much, strangely enough, they describe themselves as a nationalist socialist movement in the sense that they are African nationalists, but they give preferential treatment to people based on the color of their skin, but then also they are socialist in the sense that they want as much state control and the state to control the means of production, to use the Marxist term. But in countries like in ours, in South Africa, it seems like the anti-Western sentiment or feeling is so strong that they would happily do these type of projects with China, apparently oblivious of what the consequences thereof would be or could be. So we had, for example, we have this thing where everything is just blamed on the West, to the extent that it becomes completely crazy. Our ruling party in South Africa recently, I'm talking about 2 weeks ago, sent a delegation to Venezuela. They called it the hands of, or they used the hashtag hands of Venezuela. Then they came back and they went there to express solidarity with Nicolas Maduro. And they came back, and the spokesperson for the group said they were shocked at what happened, at what they saw in Venezuela. And firstly, they said it's actually not that bad, but they had to acknowledge that it is pretty bad also. So they had some conflicting messages. But then they said that what's wrong with Venezuela is actually the fault of the U.S. government, and there's no rational way in which you can explain that. It's just a blame-shifting thing where everything is just blamed on the West. And the more they blame everything on the West, the more eager they are to work with China in these projects back home.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so Ernst, let's get back to what's happening in South Africa in terms of the farmers who are having their land confiscated and the farmers who have been murdered. Are the authorities kind of just turning a blind eye to the violence? And is there a lot of racial tension there? I'm assuming the answer is yes.
Well, the answer is yes and no. So the vast majority of people in the country are white and black people are not racist, and they despise the idea of racism. But we see racism a lot in public platforms and so forth. Land grab is a major problem in South Africa. It's not necessarily the government doing the land grab. The government's in the process of basically empowering themselves to do so. But we do see that happening with criminals, coming to people's property, chasing them off, or just arriving there and then building houses on the property. And then we find sometimes that the police aren't prepared to remove them, and we've had to go to court on behalf of black farmers as well, whose property was just being targeted by criminal gangs. So we have the land grab issue in terms of criminals, invading the property and just occupying it, and then combine that with the government who's currently in this process of changing the constitution to make it possible for them to legally grab land, and then combine that with the violence that we see on top, where, as I said, about 2,000 have been murdered, and many of them are, as I said, tortured in very, very horrible and inhumane ways.
Wow. So why does the government want to take land, or why are they positioning themselves to confiscate the land? Or is the plan to give it to someone else?
Well, there's two reasons, I would say. The one is that they know that the majority of people in South Africa don't even think it's a good idea. Even their own voters, although people still vote for them because it's the party of Nelson Mandela and it's the party that fought against the apartheid system. So there's this, people vote for them out of loyalty despite their failures. But they have been failing, and they are failing more excessively and more visibly in recent years. And they need some form of a scapegoat. They need something to distract people from their own failures. So now taking the land is a new issue. They pretend like that's going to solve the problem.
Okay.
But then I combined with that is this typical Marxist way of thinking that the government is the people. So if the more power we give to the government, the more power that we give to the people. And the more we centralize power and the more the government decides on behalf of the people, the better for the people. And now the claim is that if the government takes the land, because the idea is not really, although they would say that, but if you look at what they actually do, the idea isn't really to give the land to people as private property. The idea is to centralize for the state to own the land. And then they believe, well, if the state owns it, then the people own it. Of course, completely oblivious to the important economic lesson that you need private property rights for the economy to flourish. That they don't seem to think that's important.
Wow. It's incredible. So they're wanting, I just to summarize what you said, they're going after the property of South Africans because essentially socialism is not working and they need to distract from the failing government. And so this is another step. It sounds like something out of the book Atlas Shrugged, honestly.
Yes, it does.
And again, back to the sub-headline in my email, South Africa's socialism began like current American socialism is happening now. You agree with that?
Unfortunately, yes. No, I'm not an expert on U.S. politics, although we see from South Africa what is happening in the U.S. And I think the reason why there's an important lesson to be learned about socialism from what's happening in South Africa. And what I'm about to say now is not my conclusion or my analysis. It's the actual words of the governing party in South Africa, which is a socialist movement. So they describe the strategy of promoting socialism in South Africa as a two-phase strategy. They even have a name for it. It's called the National Democratic Revolution. And phase one of this strategy is what they did in the 90s when they came to power, is to present themselves as being liberal, more classically liberal in the sense that they present themselves as being in favor of free markets, in favor of property rights, in favor of trade, and all these things that countries that are successful are built on. And if they present themselves as such, they get support by the people, and they also get international support. And then eventually, in doing so, they came to power. They became the government. And then according to their strategy and tactics document, what they call it, the second phase of the revolution is, once we have presented ourselves as being liberal, and once we rise to power as a result thereof, and once we gain control of the state, then we must go over to the second phase of the revolution, which is to use the mechanisms of the state to promote socialism. And I think there is a very important lesson to be learned there, that socialists aren't necessarily outright aggressive socialists when they try to get power. When they try to get power, they present themselves as being much more moderate than they actually are. And once they get that power, then you actually see what they do with the power that they are given.
It's a really good point, and it's a really good warning, and everybody listening, I hope we take it seriously. Ernst Roets, author of the book Kill the Boer, Government Complicity in South Africa's Brutal Farm Murders, also Deputy CEO of AfriForum. You can look him up. I was watching some videos on YouTube, civil rights activist, and he's in Washington, D.C. right now trying to educate, trying to talk to as many lawmakers as he can. Ernst, best of luck to you, sir, and I really appreciate you coming on the program this morning.
Thank you. I really appreciate you talking to me. It's wonderful to be here.
All righty. Be safe, sir, in your travels.